The Taylor Swift Super Bowl isn't making everyone happy because right-wing dinguses like Vivek Ramaswamy are claiming this whole thing is a conspiracy, suggesting that the Super Bowl will be rigged for the Chiefs to set the stage for Taylor Swift's Biden endorsement. What? That's whack, Jack. Come on.
Joining us now to discuss is CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy. I'm chuckling, but it's also kind of horrifying, but also kind of hilarious that they're trying to get a bunch of people to support the San Francisco team in alignment with Nancy Pelosi. Can you explain what exactly is going on here?
It's hard to explain because it's so absurd, but the idea, generally speaking, is that the NFL is in cahoots with Taylor Swift and rigging the Super Bowl to set the stage for Taylor Swift then to endorse Joe Biden for the Democrats and the establishment supposedly to wield her star power against Donald Trump in the 2024 election. Now, of course, this is absurd. It sounds absurd to the people in reality. But we shouldn't dismiss it because there are a lot of people, and not so insignificant amount of people, who end up believing these ideas, who view them as attractive. Remember the QAnon conspiracy theory, for instance, which was equally as absurd, if not more. A lot of people ended up believing that conspiracy theory because they're locked in this media universe which feeds them information that supports it. And for people in the Fox News universe and really in other parts of the web, they're being told quite literally that there's a psychological operation happening in this country in plain sight involving Taylor Swift to rig the 2024 election. Sounds absurd, but we shouldn't dismiss it because people do view these ideas as attractive.
All is lost if Roger Goodell has to field a question on a serious question.
The Pentagon has fielded a question on this.
Okay.
I mean, the thing about this is that it might be attractive to a few million people, a sliver of the country, but you do wonder how politically advantageous it is to go to war with Taylor Swift. You know, if you're Donald Trump, I don't think you want to go to war with Taylor Swift. She has a huge legion of fans, an army of supporters who, far outweigh the, crazies who end up believing this stuff. And so it might be lucrative, I think, for some people in right-wing media to feed their base this stuff. I'm not sure if you're someone like Donald Trump, you really want to pit your campaign against the most powerful pop star on Earth.
Particularly not a national election, given her social media following.
This is a call for vengeance. Welcome to today's show. If you haven't heard, they've really been normalizing the term conspiracy theory, which once was a taboo term. They're now trying to make it so that the conservative Republican Party are conspiracy theorists. Then, of course, they can lump all of us in with these complete corrupt criminals who are pretending, of course, to be Christian, who are pretending, of course, to be people who want to expose the deep state and drain the swamp. This is all done by design to lure in people who are looking for leadership in the wrong places. And Taylor Swift is being brought up again and again and again. And this week specifically, because the Kansas City Chiefs have made it to the Super Bowl, I have to cover this because every single talking head, every single person from Stephen Colbert all on are now bringing up what is called a conspiracy theory in regards to Taylor Swift. Now, I go into a deep dive, not about Taylor Swift, but about what I'm about to discuss as far as social engineering goes over on my new podcast. My new podcast is available on Podbean and Spotify, and I highly recommend you go over to those sites, you download the app, and you search for me and subscribe. If you don't have an account, I would make an account because I'm going to be making a lot of content over there where I could speak freely. So if you're not on the website and you want to hear my deep thoughts on a lot of this stuff, I'll be doing it in my podcast, so specifically breaking some of this stuff down so you can understand it much, much easier. And of course, that is stuff that is forbidden on this platform. So make sure you subscribe to those podcasts now if you haven't yet. Again, that's Spotify and Podbean. And the topic over there that I'm going to be discussing in my next video, or one of the podcasts, I should say, over there, is about social engineering. So what the mainstream media is doing is they're bringing up Taylor Swift, they're bringing up conspiracy theorists, and they're saying conspiracy theorists are saying that, the Kansas City Chiefs are in the Super Bowl because... And, all this stuff is part of the Democrat conspiracy. A Democrat conspiracy. So what would the conspiracy be about? I'll tell you what it's really about. But they're telling you that it has to do with Taylor Swift going on national TV at halftime to endorse Joe Biden. Now, I would bet next to nothing, I'm not a gambling man, that does not happen. And, of course, then after it doesn't happen, they'll discredit conspiracy theorists more. And all this does is plant seeds in people's heads as to what conspiracy theorists think and who they are. And this herds the whole notion of questioning the government and puts it in the conservative Republican basket, which is part of what the real problem is. The reason The reason that they're using Taylor Swift for social engineering, which is to manipulate people, for the people out there that don't know what social engineering is, let me just give you a quick breakdown. Okay, the definition of it is the use of centralized planning in an attempt to manage social change and regulate the future development and behavior of a society. Okay, it is nothing more than psychological manipulation. That's what it is in a nutshell. So when you hear the word manipulation, when you might have dated somebody like they manipulated me into doing this or thinking that, or they manipulated me to think that they were loyal to me and they were cheating on me. Well, the government is the one manipulating you. And the celebrities all are intel agents. That's right. I know it's hard to believe because we've been trained to think that they chase their dreams and they're smarter than us and more talented than us. But that's not the truth. The truth is they work for the government. Now, what they're trying to tell you now is that they work for the government in the sense of, well, it's a CIA asset, Taylor Swift. And what this is really about isn't her going out and endorsing Joe Biden in an election that doesn't count because your votes don't count. What it's about is social engineering the audience out there to have Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Why? Because Travis Kelce is a very popular football player who is an alpha male. So a lot of young teens out there admire him. They quote unquote idol worship him, even though they wouldn't admit to that. And they watch the behavior of these celebrities and what they do and what they say. And it's psychological manipulation without them even realizing it. And what is Travis Kelce now supporting? Travis Kelce is supporting putting a certain something inside of your body. That's right, a certain something inside of your body. And our government is so hell-bent on getting a certain demographic, which is teenagers and young men in their 20s and 30s, to get this inside of their body, not necessarily to kill them, but of course to alternate their genetic code, that they're trying to prop up people who are popular in those demographics, right? We've seen rappers come out. We've seen some musicians come out. We've seen some athletes come out. And by propping up Travis Kelce to influence the male demographic, they're also doing another thing to influence the male demographic by putting an arranged relationship together by having Taylor Swift arm in arm with Travis Kelce. This is one of the fakest relationships you could ever possibly see. All one has to do is use their own intuition to see it. But the problem is that people don't believe that social engineering is real. People don't understand how the government works. They have no idea what the CIA does. They have no idea what Tavistock's about. And again, in the podcast that I just did, okay, I go in a deep dive into Tavistock and the creation of the Beatles and the creation of Elvis and what they were used for back then. How they took Elvis and they made him into the first sex symbol. Elvis was, thrusting his hips. We look at that now and we go, that was considered, lustful and naughty back then, and everybody laughs about it. And then you say, well, wait a minute. How did we get to this insane point we're at now, where we're actually having people openly discuss castrating their kids, and 5-year-olds dating 40? Oh, these are all things they're normalizing. Well, it started, and it starts with social influence. So the Beatles, with the hysteria of the Beatles that was created, they did that to test things out, to see how they could get people to fall in love with celebrities, and then if they could use their persuasion to manipulate their audience out there. And that's what they did. And now they have it mastered. Elvis, like I mentioned in the podcast, also is somebody who was promoting the polio shot back in the day. So how about that? So we go from Tavistock and people like Elvis who were rolled out, and then we're showing the same exact picture that you see of Travis Kelce rolling his sleeve up with a Band-Aid on it. And what was he pushing? Elvis was pushing the polio shot, the same one that shed it all over people, by the way. So now we have Travis Kelce in the same position. And people think that, it's about money. This is the conservative mindset is that, and it's very clear to me that they're trying to drown out the narrative of the magic potion, just like they do with the importance of what's in the magic potion, the nanotechnology. They want you to think that all the stuff with the magic potion is about big pharma making money. They want you to think Taylor Swift and, she's positioned with him for the Super Bowl because they're afraid that people are going to start talking about that magic potion, social engineering, and social influence, the things that I constantly try to discuss here. And they think that they're going to start, we better jump ahead of that. And we better talk about how Taylor Swift is going to endorse Joe Biden. And then, it's all rigged to go against conservatives, right? So have you noticed how they're trying to grab conspiracy theorists and lump us into this basket? All these people that think they're awake couldn't be more asleep. They are all victims of social engineering. They are victims of psychological manipulation. They're being manipulated by their leaders in their political party that they support. They're being manipulated by the fake news stories that are put out every single day to create an illusion in their minds of what reality is. Okay? All this stuff you see, I can't emphasize it enough, is all put out there by design. It is out there to manipulate your thoughts. You're being herded without you realizing it. You think that you're independently thinking because they tell you that you are, but you're not. You are a product of them until you pull out of this system. And that's what I'm trying to do. So Taylor Swift, who again, how many times have I covered Taylor Swift? Probably thousands. Not because I enjoy Taylor Swift, not because it's going to get me any views or clicks. I know the majority of people who listen to my channel don't really want to hear about Taylor Swift, but it's important to understand the mechanism of what Taylor Swift stands for. Because right now, Taylor Swift is the equivalent of the Beatles in our society. It happened overnight. They decided to select Taylor Swift. 15 years ago, no one knew who she was. 10 years ago, 7 years ago, I covered Taylor Swift at the VMAs with Kanye West, and nobody could care at all. People couldn't care less about Taylor Swift getting walked over by Kanye and Beyonce. They thought it was something with race. They thought Kanye was in the right. Nobody realizes. All of a sudden, the only reason people are talking about Taylor Swift is because they won't stop talking about Taylor Swift. Because they're using Taylor Swift, like I pointed out in a video that's now removed, to talk about what? Gun control. To talk about what? Love all, accept all, tolerate all. All of the New World Order ideologies, the Communist Manifesto to a T, okay, filters down through these celebrities, and then they repackage it as love, as acceptance, as diversity, as equality. These are all misleading terms. They're manipulating you into slavery, okay? So Taylor Swift and the whole thing with the Super Bowl, everybody out there is looking at it and they're like, it's rigged. Well, it's very possible that the Super Bowl is rigged. I mean, you don't think they can control sports? You know, the only people that don't think they can control sports are people who are fans still of sports, which is what I say about Disney, right? I grew up a fan of sports, okay? Part of my awakening process was trying to and having to eliminate myself from enjoying any of these worldly, earthly things. Doesn't mean I still don't watch it and see what's going on. It doesn't mean that. But I have no emotional investment anymore in sports. I couldn't care less. I don't care, but I do watch it to see what they're doing and what they're saying because there is an audience there that they need to target, young minds. It's one of the most popular ways or popular forms of media now is sports. And they love to use the advertising and the puppets who go through their Masonic orders as they're initiated into the NBA and the MLB and the NFL. And then they go out and they do the bidding of their handlers. Okay? That's what LeBron James does. What do you think? They all have the same ideologies, the same as the celebrities. They're all programmed in. Okay? And if to think that sports aren't rigged, it's just you telling yourself that it's not possible. But it is possible. It's possible with technology. It's possible with the ball, having some type of technology in the ball to move. So there's all things we could think about, right? But it makes perfect sense because I think a lot of us were saying when we saw this arranged marriage with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and the Magic Potion that there was a good chance that they were going to make it to the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl is the most watched show on television in the United States of America every year. Nothing is close. Nothing is close. That's why they've convinced people out there to watch the Super Bowl just for the ads because they go out of their way to put mind control beyond steroids into those commercials. Okay, I cover the commercials every year because there's agenda behind every single thing. And they like you to think that people like me are crazy dissecting this stuff, and you're supposed to believe these people are just putting this stuff out there because they're creative and they're artistic. Everything they're doing is about social engineering. Okay, it's about not managing social change. Okay? It's about developing, controlling, and manipulating people's behavior. And they use these false idols to do it. Nobody, like I said, is going to look to Chuck Schumer, you know, at the way Chuck Schumer's dressing and all these other things, and then copycat him. And again, the basic forms of social engineering I talk about in my podcast. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do so now. And the basic form are the littlest things in our day-to-day life that you don't even realize have been programmed into us. Okay? Even the way you dress, even the way that you, put your makeup on, even the way that you use sayings that you don't know what they mean, like it is what it is. We say things, we repeat things, we hear things. That's social engineering. They know how to work the human mind. They've studied it, they've mastered it, and now MK Ultra is being used on the population every second of every day. And the only way out of it is to realize you're being manipulated. So in that podcast, I go into detail also about the importance of understanding not just social engineering, but also how we perceive reality. Because really, if we unplugged everything and we went about our day from morning to night, doing basic essential things that need to be done, food, water, right, sleep, you wouldn't have a clue about equity, you wouldn't even care, which is one of the reasons, of course, that they do this to people because we've given control of being, all these things that are things that satisfy you, fulfill you, that humans were put here to do, like take care of themselves. We allow the government to do it for us, right? And now while the government has us distracted, they're going to pull the carpet out from underneath us. So those are things, again, in the podcast. I wanted to do a video on this because of the collection of things that are out there. They're going to come out there and they're going to say conspiracy theory because they're going to drown out any noise about social engineering and this arranged relationship, which I've broken down, which is available on the website. Those videos have been since removed. Surprise, surprise, Cindy. Okay? But they're on the website about these two, their arranged relationship, and how social engineering works. Okay? This is a subtle way to make both of them more popular amongst their demographic fan base and to push this poison into people's bodies. Ultimately, that's what it is because they have to get this inside of people. They have to. That's what it's about. It's not about doing it for the sake of, oh, they want to make big pharma, big money, and they're all Look, they're looking to alter your genetic code, and that demographic that they both represent is the one they want. They want 20 to 30 to early 40-year-olds specifically, and they want teenagers, 13, 14, 15, to make these decisions on their own through social persuasion, okay? That's what it's about, and they won't talk about that. They'll tell you that it's about votes for Joe Biden. And then, of course, nothing will happen at the Super Bowl, and then they'll come out and they'll say, see, conspiracy theorists are wrong again. They're wrong. When the only people who are making those types of predictions are, people who want to label themselves conspiracy theorists because they want to drown out actual truthers, people who are speaking on these intel operations that the government does to civilians. Not talking about, oh, it's about voting, okay? Because anybody with common sense at this point, if you think your vote counts, you're so far behind in the game that you haven't have a clue, and you probably haven't for quite some time. I'm not saying it to insult you. I'm saying it to tell you to snap out of it, okay? Because the people that are getting put in these positions, you're not electing them, okay? You're not electing them. They're being selected. And that's the illusion that they're trying to keep, that the people are responsible for the destruction of this country. And that's who they're going to blame when they bring in their new globalist infrastructure. I thank everybody for being here. Thanks for letting me rant. Hope to see you over on the podcast. And if you want to stay here on YouTube and follow me on YouTube, make sure you sub to my other channels, link below. I am almost finished with those. They'll be ready to go, and I'll have new content on those as well. I recommend you do so now because there's a good chance this might get a strike. You might say, well, what did you say that's so controversial? Exactly. Those are the things they don't want you to talk about. They don't want you to think about manipulation and CIA operations that have to do with civilians' minds and how they can control and manipulate your mind to do the things they want you to do. And all those things they want you to do. It's not about doing good things. Hey, we want a society of bad people. We want to manipulate them into being good people. It's quite the opposite. It's to do everything opposite of what is good. They're manipulating people. They're turning them into reprobates. They're turning them into serial killers through mind control, which I talk about in that podcast as well. Okay, and these are all things I'll continue to talk about over on the podcast. This rant is over. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you as always and your families.